Welcome back. Next on State of the Nation, as Nigeria marks its independence away from the furore of activities that usually greets the nation, this year it's different. For obvious reasons, insurgency in the northeast, broke states governments who recently received bailout packages, kidnappings on other vices and more. Hope is still alive though, with the new administration reiterating its commitment to harness the resources of Nigeria that is largely blessed and sets the country on the path of greatness once again. We spoke to a former aide to the former President Olusegun Obasanjo on what's next for Nigeria as it celebrates 55 years of sovereignty. Mr. Akin Oshutogo, we want to thank you so much indeed for joining us on State of the Nation. You did hear about Mr. President's address on the 1st of October to Nigerians. What do you make of his speech?
It is an occasion that you should de-emphasize divisiveness or partisanship of politics. It's a period in which the nation, should stand together as one. It is a period when we should dwell less on criticizing one another, on finding faults, no matter how objective one is. I think it's an occasion for stressing what is good about the country. The country as an entity. Talk about Nigeria generally and dwell less on individual achievements and failures of governments. You can address themes like the civil war, the coup. These are general. We're not attributing personal blames to anybody. You are just taking the nation as an entity. But I think that it requires us to dwell more on the positive. Nigeria too, it's an occasion for festivity, for good fellow feeling, for dwelling, more on what binds us as a nation, on giving inspiration to Nigerians.
But you do remember also that the publicity secretary, the national publicity secretary of the APC, Mr. Lai Mohammed, also said that it is a little too early to judge because there are a whole lot more employments to be made, appointments by the president himself.
No, I think people make a mistake about ministerial appointment. The president is constitutionally bound, right, to appoint a minister from every state of the country. So this is not left, it's not up to his discretion. We will judge him on the basis of what he does discretionally, when he's not acting, under the dictate, under the constraint of the law. When he has his own latitude, individual latitude and discretion to decide and take action. That is how you know him. It's against the Constitution. He has no choice in the matter. The appointment of minister from every part of the country. It's not for him to say no. If he says no, then he's gone. As a president, he will be impeached, because that will amount to a violation of the Constitution.
So in your view, what would you say is the litmus test now that we've had the ministerial lists expected, and that could, of course, change the dynamics when people say that the Constitution, as you said, the Punch newspaper carried out an opinion poll that suggests that over 70% of his appointments are from the north. Perhaps the ministerial list will change this.
Remember that about 2/3 of it have been announced. Anyway, about 21 have been announced. As I said, it's a non-issue, in terms of seeing it as a parameter or a standard for assessing his nationalism or detribalization or whatever. That is not a valid yardstick for it. I mean, he has to appoint people from all over, from every state, whether he likes it or not. So it's not really a very valid measure or yardstick of evaluating his Nigerian, pan-Nigeria attitude, outlook, or vision.
So now the president, Muhammadu Buhari, in his own view, wants to be the Minister for Petroleum Resources. Is this a move in the right direction, you suppose?
Given the centrality of petroleum resources, that section, that part of our economy, given the centrality, the significance of it to the Nigerian economy, I have no issues with him being the Minister of Petroleum. Because in any event he had been before. If he chooses to do so now, that sector has become very, very controversial, and to a large extent, it's been it's vulnerable and prone to abuse, right? And you see, because there's a lot of room for discretion, a lot of room for, personal intervention and so on and so forth. So it requires, any president should be very, very sensitive to that resource. It's a reflection of that sensitivity, and it's good. I mean, I have no problems with it at all, And whatever anybody may say about the president, I think one point that people say about him, and nobody can contest it, is that he's a relatively, incorruptible person. That is his integrity. If he will bring that to bear on that sector, and that sector needs that. And the present day in Nigeria and the kind of abuses that the petroleum sector had been. I support it mixed with my own. I have no problems with it at all.
Do you believe that President Muhammadu Buhari can contain corruption, being the reason why he says that he wants to be the Minister for Petroleum Resources? Yes.
The only constraint I think he will have is his age, the limitation that his age may put on him. He may not have sufficient energy, that sector deserves. I mean, in combination with all his other responsibilities as a president. That is my only reservation about that. But other than that, I think that I have no problem with it. As I said before, he knows the sector very well. He had been Minister of Petroleum Resources before. That is a very good credential. Another is that he is very, he has this attribute that I'm also willing to concede, and that is the relative integrity, and incorruptibility, so which that tech sector definitely requires. So I have no issues with it at all. I think but as I said, combining it with his other duties, and at 72, 73 years of age, he may have limitations, in performing sufficient oversight. But on the balance, I think I support the decision.
At what point did we get it wrong and concentrated more on petroleum resources and forgetting other sectors that brought us to the point whereby petroleum was now the mainstay of the economy?
Well, you have to go back to what they call first principles. I think the problem started with the violation of federalism, That was where the balance of Nigeria as a balanced political entity needed what was prescribed for it at independence, and that was federalism. And of course, the parliamentary system of government. But mainly, it was the violation of federalism that now resulted into other things. Federalism, the way it was conceived and was operated in the First Republic, encouraged what you call competitive modernization. Now, each region had a lot of autonomy and latitude, and were developmental oriented, right? They were rivals in a very positive sense. They were the one driving, the development of Nigeria, the regions. They were big enough, they were given enough latitude, autonomy to do what they wanted to do. They were the one driving the development of the country. Now the reverse is also the case now. You have the government at the center. You know, in violation of that federalism, it is the government at the center that is really not suited for that kind of role in the setting of Nigeria. That is, rather than drive Nigeria's in the you know, development, is like sharing over the division of the national cake. You know, somebody sitting at the center deciding that I will give you this one, will take this one, this one will take this one. The problem with that is this, right? And it is a problem with checks and balances at all times, right? The person who becomes the president of Nigeria, our faith should not be that you are going to always get the right president. You design constitutions and regulations in anticipation that if a bad person gets there, the degree of damage that the person will be able to do will be limited because of the structural balance, checks and balances in place.
What would you say is your final word on a day like this when Nigerians are celebrating their 55th independence anniversary?
Somebody has set the example of the political will to do what is right. No matter what anybody may say about President Jonathan, that is the interpretation of what he has done. The will to do what is right in a moment of considerable pressure, not to do so. So whatever other inadequacies you may attribute to him, history will give him that. And I was glad that President Buhari also reiterated that point again. So let us follow his precedent. Even though you think, no matter how lowly you think of his governance, that is one respect in which he is a giant. So let other Nigerian leaders demonstrate that kind of will, that will to do what is right, to, you know, regardless of you know, whatever pressures or tensions around you. That is the way Nigeria can move forward. In the context of Africa, what he did was unprecedented. I mean, it was a natural. You see, I don't want to give the impression. I'm not here to eulogize Jonathan. I'm just using it as an instance, as the kind of attitude, seizing the moment, you know, to do what is right, and that can give that moment, choosing that moment, can have a long-standing and strategic positive effect on the country. Now that he has done it, at the back of every Nigerian now, in our vision, that okay, it's possible. Now in the next election, having had that kind of experience, it will not be so difficult if maybe the government loses, another government loses again. That is how to start it. The demonstration of that political will, you know, to take a decision in which your own interest is reduced to zero. That there is a temptation for you to do the opposite. You have the means to do so. You may even be under considerable result to do so. Yet you do what is right. You know, you have to do it, and by that. So that is how Nigeria can make it. I would expect President Buhari, for instance. Even though by philosophy or orientation or ideology, I don't think he believes so much in federalism. But that is what is right for Nigeria.
I want to thank you so much indeed, Mr. Akin Oshuntoko. Interesting thoughts and indeed a wake-up call for all of us as a country. One thing is agreed though, that change will only happen with a change of mindset, where workers get to work on time and remain productive till close of work, where the governors, elected by the governed, will give leadership that transcends to growth and institute policies that are people-friendly. Many say that the time is right now to get it right for Africa's most populous nation, Nigeria. This is State of the Nation. Bye for now.